We are back for another episode of the Capes and Tights podcast right here on capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. This week, or this episode, I should say, we have Jordan Plosky of Zoop.gg, a crowdfunding platform for creators of comic books and more, actually. But Jordan joined us to talk about the platform, how it got started, what projects are on there right now, what sets Zoop apart from other crowdfunding platforms out there. And we talked so much more right here on this episode. But before we get started, visit capesandtights.com for way more content, as well as follow us on social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and find us on Apple and Spotify and all your major podcasting platforms. Rate, review, all that stuff. 5 stars, please. Subscribe. Yeah. So this is Jordan Plosky, CEO and co-founder of Zoop.gg, which is the website also. So check that out here on the Capes and Tights podcast. Enjoy, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm tired, man. I'm looking at my face on the screen. It's 8:30ish here on the West Coast.
So
I'm not sure where you are.
I'm in Bangor, Maine, or in Maine. So
okay. Yeah.
So we're opposites, and I did one last week with Tony Fleece, comic book artist writer.
Also,
he was also on the West Coast, and so he did the same thing where he was like, "I got my coffee."
Yep.
Yeah.
See, just in case you didn't know, I am the best farter ever. Yeah. Father's Day gift.
They're the best. I can't wait till I get some from mine. My kid gives me a Father's Day gift of like a poop in a diaper.
Oh, congratulations.
He's only 2.
Man. Yeah, there you go. It gets better.
Yeah. Well, it gets better. This weekend he was sick.
Oh,
no. And so like on Thursday he started developing a little bit of a cough, and then on Friday it got worse, and then Friday night, my wife and I were like back and forth trying to get up with him, like, okay, is he gonna do okay? And about, I want to say 9:30, 10 o'clock, he kind of coughed himself into a fit that he spit up a little bit in bed. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, we changed his sheets and did all that stuff. And then he was back out there, does the exact same thing. And my wife goes, I'll lay with him a little bit on the couch for a little bit. She gets out to the living room. He does another coughing fit and gets rid of everything all over her.
Been there, man. I've been there.
All over her. And I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, my wife's not very good with puke at all. And I was like, hon, if this was me, like if I had just like gotten sick and like puked in the living room, she would have also thrown up. Like it would have been a whole thing. But because it's our son and I said, I hate that cliche thing of like, when you're a dad, you'll understand. It's like, it's true. The smell sucks, but like, I don't know. It's something about just getting there and cleaning it up and finishing it up.
There's no time to think about it. You got to do what you got to do when you're a parent.
Luckily we had like about 6 months ago, we bought a rug cleaner. And I was like, I could wait till the morning. I could wait till the morning. But I'm like, my wife's like, he's going to be up for a little bit. So I'm like, I just went to the garage and was like, I'm going to get it out there and do it right now so that by the morning the rug is clean. It doesn't smell like throw up. But
man, yeah, the joys of parenthood, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. He'll be 2 in May, and it is more good than bad. So I will say that to anybody who's thinking about having a kid. I mean,
100%. Say goodbye to sleep. But yes, the good outweighs the bad.
And also,
May what, if you don't mind me asking? I have a May baby as well.
May 18th.
Oh, 30th.
20. Okay. Yes, I'm May 15th. So there.
Hey, all right.
Yeah. Well, he was supposed to be born like June, the first week of June, and he was 3 weeks early. And I for my entire life, I've always been like, I don't want a baby that's around a kid that's around the same birthday as me. Look at that. 3 days after my birthday, I have a kid.
There's worse things, man. Don't worry about that.
I mean, it's my fault for saying anything, probably, right? I mean, if I would have said just kept my mouth shut, he would have been born in September.
You put it out there, man. That's what happens sometimes.
Out into the universe. But we welcome to Dad Talk 101 here on the podcast, right?
We could do a whole hour.
Exactly. But we're here to talk about what I would eventually hopefully share with my kids. My kid at one point is comic books and the world of, periodically fake funny magazine things we got going on here. But I always like to start out when I talk to a new person that hasn't been on the podcast before, like how you got your start in comic books. Like, how did you start reading? What's your comic book origin story on how you became a fan of the world of comic books?
Yeah. It probably goes back to when I'm like 4 or 5, and, we would go to the candy store. Like, I don't even know that that's a thing anymore, but, I guess that's sort of like the spinner rack equivalent, They indeed had a spinner rack. And for me, it was like just those little Archie digests. Those are like the first kind of comics I think that like my parents probably felt, good enough, like having like a young kid reading.
Mm-hmm.
And funny enough, taking it back to the dad thing, like my daughter, who is about to be 13 in May, has my entire stack of Archie digests, and she's gone through all of them as well. So she's big Archie fan. She's watching Riverdale now. But anyway, I mean, like the Archies back in the day, I'm an 80s kid, so Archies, and then I remember like some GI Joe.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like loosely into it, but the comic that like everything was this like big event when like Image Comics came out and Spider-Man 1 and X-Men 1, McFarlane, Jim Lee. I was a big Valiant fan, like this is all like 91, 92, 93. But the book for me that like holds the biggest space in my heart is The New Warriors. I don't know how old you are, or if you remember this book called The New
Yeah.
Warriors, but
Yeah.
that's my
I'm an 80s kid. I'm 86, but like I really didn't get into comic books until a little bit later on in my life, like full on. But yeah, I
well,
know the New Warriors. I think I have. I honestly think. Keep talking.
yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, dude, you have a Nova #1 slab behind you there. I see
Yeah.
now that you
Well, here's
moved.
the deal. My son's name is Nova.
That's
So
awesome.
that's one of the reasons why I have it. It's not the funny thing about that is again back to the dad thing is it wasn't because of that. It was a air gap in my mind about him even being related to Nova in the comic books. Like I was like my wife and I were shooting back names and we're just like, oh, we really like Nova. And it honestly wasn't until we're like, okay, that's what we're gonna call our son that I was like doing
Then you
something and I
became
was
a
like,
Then you became a
well,
Nova fan.
but then I was like, oh my God, I forgot there's someone named Nova in the comic book. And people were like, yeah, sure. I'm like, no, seriously. There was like this weird time in my mind where I completely, utterly forgot about Nova in comic books. And then so now everything I have is Nova. So New Warriors, things like that, all that stuff I got. Yeah, it's bad, honestly, now.
The
There's a
Nova action
whole
figures.
short box
Yeah.
down there. Yeah. I got one. It's a remake. They made these like remake things.
Oh yeah. I've
Yeah.
seen that. I've seen that. You got to
Yeah.
get the Hasbro Legends one, man. That's a
Yeah, I
good one.
know, right? And then I'm a
That's
big
a good
Scotty
one.
Young fan, so it's hard to see if anyone's like, well, but I got Nova.
Oh man, that's
Project.
amazing, dude.
But yeah,
That's amazing. Yeah, no, my daughter's name is Logan, so Snick, man. But Nova,
no, it's funny how like I said though, people are like, oh yeah, sure, you're a big huge comic book nerd, and it's not Nova. I'm like, I'm serious. Like, I
well,
I, I didn't, but like still,
we had a friend, their daughter's name was Nova, and I was like, oh, that's the coolest name. And then I was like, oh, that's what we should have done. And anyway, a lot of our names were all like, if it was a boy, she might have been Luke, actually. So I think that tells you a little bit more. But yeah, man, New Warriors. That's kind of
yeah.
like my answer to everything. Like when it comes to like, the comic question of like, what's that book? What's that like Desert Island Run?
Mm.
It's New Warriors. Mark Bagley, Fabian Nicieza, like that book has stuck with me, and I feel like it even made me realize like it actually like between like that and like punk rock, which like also was a big part of my life. Like those are the two things that like really inform the kind of person I am. I feel subconsciously at the time, but like looking back, I'm like, oh my God, that really did like sink in. Like the messages there like really sunk into the person that I am today. So huge Valiant fan, loved like that whole Image, comics coming together, Youngblood, Savage Dragon, Spawn, all that. But like for me, it was New Warriors for
New
sure.
Warriors. See, and again, I say this to everybody else who says these stories. Like it's always new and it's always different. I feel like there's people. If you talk to someone who's like, "Oh, I'm a guitarist," and like, or a musician, this is how I got into music, and it's like there's a lot of people with the same similar stories. I feel like in comic books, it's really hard to say that. Like, I think the one common thread I hear the most is the X-Men animated show.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That a
Oh,
lot
I
of it
watch
is
that all
like
the time. Yeah.
and
I
so
watch
like
that all
that
the
to
time
me
too.
could be an entry into comic books, and I'm glad it's coming back because like there's some people, younger kids, who might see that and have an entry into comic books. But there's still most of the time it's a different story and it's a different comic book, whether it be. I mean, you're the first person I've talked to, and we're going
That says
on
New
100
Warriors.
New Warriors, which is great. I mean, there's other. I mean, a number of people have said X-Men and things like that, but like New Warriors
Well,
is a cool little thing there.
I mean, I'll go one deeper. I think what happened was like when all those Image guys jumped, from Marvel,
Yeah.
formed Image, like the one guy to me, and like, at the time anyway, like the one guy who like stayed was Mark Bagley, and
Mm-hmm.
he became the Amazing Spider-Man artist. And I think I got into Spider-Man first and really loved his stuff and like found that he did the New Warriors and like went backwards that way. So it's just really interesting. And then like you always think to yourself, like, well, why didn't he go and jump to Image? It's like, well, he became the #1 guy over at Marvel. Like he got Amazing Spider-Man. So it's
It,
just, yeah.
and there's people who just that's what they want to do. I mean, there's people who fought tooth and nail to get to be at Marvel or DC or things like that. And
Yeah.
yes, I have a recording later on. The actual episodes are swapped when they release. Later on, I talked to Cullen Bunn, who is a obviously comic book writer. He's done DC, Marvel, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he's now doing all the independent and creator owned stuff, which obviously is a connection to you and the idea that you're hoping to fund some of these independent and creator owned stuff. Is maybe it gets to the big two, but maybe that's not what you want to do forever. So let's do this independent stuff. But there's some people out there who get to the big two and just that's what they want to do for the rest of their life. So at the point, Bagley might have been like, no, I want to draw Superman, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, would it be cool to create my own characters and do my own thing over an image? But an image, I can't draw Spider-Man and Captain America and all these other things. I can't draw those to the independent thing. I can draw those characters here. So having the getting paid and the legal right to actually draw those characters from release comic books, Bagley might have just wanted to do that. So
I feel like the typical route that a lot of creators take, and I'm not saying this is everybody, but I feel like you kind of start in indie comics because you got to break in, you got to get your foot in the door. Then you do get noticed by like the big two, and then you kind of leave the big two because now you have a name that you could sort of, make more of the profit, releasing your own stuff somewhere else, like an Image or something like that. But for Bagley, yeah, I mean, like just because you're a writer or an artist doesn't mean that you have your own creations. You just want to play in that sandbox with those toys, and that's totally cool too. I mean, dude, Bagley's been doing Spider-Man for 30
forever. It feels like it's forever.
Yeah, for real. So it's a pretty crazy run over there, and if the guy's happy, great. Still, he's my number one. That's my dude right there, Mark Bagley. Like his art, like when you think of comic books, you think of comic book art. For me, like a Bagley image will show up. So
yeah, unbelievable artist, unbelievable creator. And again, I was trying to think about the whole like getting to the big two. Like the big two, a lot of people is like the pros, like the professional leagues. It'd be like making the NFL and then be like, nah, I'm good. Now I'm gonna go over here and do this other thing. It's like
I don't know, man. Well, it's like Michael Strahan, right? Like
yes.
you go to the NFL, you make your name, and then you become an even bigger name, doing something
outside
else.
That, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely, I mean, for some people who have done it and done it well, there's money in it. So like, obviously it's smart if you're going to go, if you're the James Tiny in the fourth and you draw Batman and do all that stuff, then you're like, okay, I'm going to step away from Batman and do Something's Killing Children and all this other stuff that he's probably making way more money than he was even doing Batman. There is a thing on that. And guess what? 5 years from now, if DC is like, hey, you want to draw or write Batman again? He was like, yeah, maybe I will. They're not going to say no.
I'll go play with those toys again. Sure.
So it's a weird world we live in, but like now we're in a world of a lot of content out there. And so there is a lot of avenues for people. And I talked to Liana Kangas about the idea of variant covers and just giving people opportunities to do things that maybe they wouldn't have been seen by people. So like if you go into a comic book shop and you see a bunch of different variant covers and maybe cover D is by an artist that's like very unknown, but someone picks it up and loves it, they sell a lot of copies of it and get a job in the future as some sort of interior sequential artist or cover artist somewhere else. There's a lot of opportunities for people out there nowadays. And I feel like my dad used to say it to us when we were kids that when he was playing in a band and to create a cassette tape, it cost them thousands of dollars. They had to carve out studio time. They had to figure out how to get there, all this other stuff to make these tapes. When nowadays someone can literally sit at their house in their living room, make an album, put it on the internet and sell it and monetize it like that with only time and a little bit of energy and maybe obviously the equipment to do it. But like they could just do it. Nowadays, something with comic books can technically do that with help from people like obviously with your company with Zoop and other things that are out there on the market too. But it's such a crazy world that if you want to create something and you work hard enough, you can just make it and put it out there. And I think that's such a cool thing. And I think, again, making it the big two is cool. It's everybody's goal. You never hear, I don't think I've heard of one person who's like started writing or wanting to draw or write comic books as a kid and wasn't like, oh, I want to be at Marvel or DC at some point. Like they're sending letters in to put them in there.
You know what though? I feel like this generation, that's not their goal. There is like so what you're saying. I mean, the internet basically democratizes all of this. Technology democratizes all of this. To your point, like the computer that we're talking on right now can do everything that your dad, had to spend thousands of dollars on. And look, I was him. I used to be in a band as well. And we had to like scrounge together like some money for studio time to put something on a cassette. And then you had to figure out how to duplicate that cassette. Anyway, we don't have to go down that road, but like to your point, yes, the internet democratizes creation. Technology democratizes creation, and platforms like Zoop also give people that opportunity to help find an audience, to monetize an audience, to put the money together in order to go into production on a product. So yes,
it's easier, and we're thankful of people like yourself and your team over there at Zoop because of that opportunity for things. And let's be honest, we got to also give credit to the other the bigger companies out there that have
you could say their names.
Framework. You look at Kickstarter, your Kickstarters and Indiegogo, they've laid the framework and the groundwork for other companies to do things like this. It makes sense. I work in the brewing industry full time as well. I'm a creative director for a brewery, and there's local breweries who people like who have been around for years. Who people are like, those companies, they make junk beer. It's like, but you have to respect them because they were the first, or the early people. I mean, not the first, but the early groundworking people that made it so that they laid the framework and the groundwork for us to be able to do what we're doing now. And without them, we wouldn't be here. And so there is a thankful on that.
Look, all the respect in the world to Kickstarter. They have done over $7 billion in revenue. Like, I mean, there's a handful of companies that can say something like that, and even fewer in the creative world, right? So the fact that they've been able to have such monumental success, nothing but respect for them. I mean, but it does open the door for a company like us to be like, you know what? We love what you do, but we feel that we could add something to what you're doing and sort of like change it and modernize it a little bit for, they launched in 2009, 2010. Basically, the technology really hasn't like kept up. They're starting to make some improvements now, but I think that's because there's companies like Zoop and Crowdfunder and GameFound on the game side, and like other people nipping at their heels. They have to start to remain competitive instead of just being like, well, we don't care, we're the only game in town anyway. And no disrespect to Indiegogo, but I think that they're just two different markets.
And it's one of those things they've been able to make a name for themselves for the longest time, no matter what. I mean, people are still going to use the word Kickstarter as a crowdfunding name, like Kleenex or Google search.
Like Google, exactly. Yeah. It's first mover advantage, and that's totally fine. That puts the pressure on us to, get the name Zoop out there even more and turn Zoop into a verb the way Kickstart, is a verb. So, it just takes time.
Creative name like that. Like if you just come up with a name that's very, I don't know, a pun on a crowdfunding thing. Not that that's a bad thing, people. I'm just saying that like Zoop is a thing where you're like, what is that? And you have to honestly. I heard it for the first time. One of my favorite podcasts ever is Off Panel with David Harper, and there's an advertisement on there for Zoop, and I was like, what is this thing? And that's when I started to do a little bit of research on this and looking into it and so on, and then saw the creators working with
the ads worked.
It worked. And it's great. The podcast ones are great too, because like David reads it himself, and so like you hear that honesty and that thing. And obviously David doesn't have a lot of advertisers on there. He's only got a few. So when he feels like, okay, someone has decided to partner with me, he's obviously going to agree with it and believe in it, because he doesn't need it. Like, he doesn't, like, it's not that he doesn't need it, but like, he's only going to do it if he believes in it. So that's another reason why I trusted the fact of looking up Zoop.
I appreciate that. Look, I mean, I've known David for quite a while now, because I had another startup before this, but he's a great guy. Love his podcast. I'm always amazed by the guests that he's able to get on that show. I mean, I kind of feel like he is the top podcast in the world of comics. So we're fortunate to have that ad spot there. And again, I'm glad that it worked. But the name Zoop, it's funny because like when we first launched, we got so much flack for the name and people making fun of it, and it sounds like soup, or what's Zoop, blah, 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 blah. But like now it's just a part of the conversation. We're past that initial shock of like, what is this name Hooli? Like if you ever watch Silicon Valley, you know. So I like the name because it doesn't pigeonhole us, and we have big plans for more. So I feel like Zoop can encapsulate everything and not pigeonhole us into like just crowdfunding or just crowdfunding comics and things like that.
Well, if you were to Google Zoop, you don't get a bunch of other, what I mean? Like, it's like one of those things. I was talking to Mark Guggenheim on here about his comic book Torrent, and he's like, this is like one of the worst things he's ever called a comic book, because you just Google Torrent, and it's not going to come up with a comic book called Torrent. It's going to come up with the illegal way to get his comic book Torrent.
FBI just shows up at your door. Why are you Googling all these torrents?
And so like, obviously, like I've always said, my buddy and I, who used to co-host a podcast with me, we talked about creating a comic book at one point, writing it and having someone else illustrate it and stuff. And we had talked about one of the coolest things I think about right over my left shoulder here is Something's Killing the Children. It's like that name itself, I mean, it's going to get people to buy the book.
Yeah.
If the book's amazing, but if the book sucked, people are still going to buy this book because it's called Something's Killing the Children. There's a brewery in our area. I have a beer called Smiling Irish Bastard is the name of the beer. And there's a story behind it, but like just to have it like ordering the beer and be like, I could say bastard. And like, it's something to
Yeah.
do. Even if the beer wasn't good, people would still order it because of the name. And so, like I said, that's the simple thing with a name is it's so hard to create something unique. But like I said, to a lot of people, you want to make sure you can get your social media platforms. You want to be able to get your name.
Yeah.
You want to be able to get your website, and you want to be able to get, somebody will be able to search you on the internet and find you. And something like Zoop is very easy to be like, okay, that's the thing. There's not much out there under the word Zoop.
There are some other Zoops. So we're not Zoop.com.
Okay.
So anybody listening to this, we are actually Zoop.gg. But the good thing is, like, whenever we do, like social media advertising or something like that, it's a link directly to a campaign. Like you're clicking on it. You're not, and same with like a Kickstarter. Like when you click on that link, you're not typing in Kickstarter /project/ something is killing the children. Like you're just clicking on the link and it takes you right there.
Mm-hmm.
There was a video game from the 90s called Zoop, and there's like this Brazilian tax preparation company called Zoop.
Ooh.
So those are some of the other things that are like in the search query. Excuse me.
But I mean, I think of it, like I said, though, if you search it though, you're the first search comes up is you guys. So it's not like you're not fighting that, and you are the only one in that industry,
in the creative sort of crowdfunding space.
Too bad the tax person wasn't like a United States tax. I feel like that would be just a match made in heaven right there. Okay, this person's going to do our taxes.
Yeah, right.
Also named Zoop. But I feel like it's questionable for having your company having Brazilian tax preparer do your taxes.
Totally, very questionable. At least it's not Venezuelan. But all of our socials are at We Are Zoop. Yeah, Zoop is already taken, but We Are Zoop. Like, I mean, it comes from so far back. Like We Are Venom, We Are Robin. In 2009, I was part of a band out of Ohio. If anybody is listening to this knows this, I played in a band called We Are the Fury. So but like that We Are, it just I feel like breeds community. It's like showing like, hey, we're all in this together kind of thing. And yeah, I don't know. I just always love that vibe of like We Are. So We Are Zoop, on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, even YouTube. I think we have a TikTok. If not, it should be up and running soon. But at We Are Zoop.
The everywhere. We Are thing too is like, it's not just, I mean, you wouldn't be your company if it was just you and your staff working. You need the people who also crowdfund their comic books or products on you. So like you are a team. It's a We Are thing. It belongs to everybody. And so that's 100%. Connection of that too. But I mean, as we're talking about Zoop here and so you obviously you founded another company, you sold that. I mean, we don't have to go into that. You probably talked about that a ton of times. So how did Zoop itself come out of that time? Like it's 2018 you founded it?
We kind of started it was a pandemic baby, for lack of a better term. I mean, I was working a day job, which was great, love that company and everything like that. But like when the pandemic hit and we were stuck in quarantine and everyone's going nuts, like I literally found like, all right, I need something positive to focus on and to do something creative. And I guess like for me, being creative meant like start another company. And so I'd start having conversations with like friends of mine in the industry, like seeing what's going on, what people are doing. And one of those people was my co-founder in Zoop, Eric Moss. So Eric was at IDW for a few years. He had done licensing for Disney for even longer before that. And he was most recently at Cryptozoic Entertainment, basically handling their crowdfunding over there. Most notably for him, though, he was the campaign manager on the Berserker campaign, the Keanu Reeves, Boom Studios, which is still, it wasn't beat out by The Expanse, so it's still the number one crowdfunding campaign, and he ran that one for them.
But Boom knows what they're doing with these whole crowdfunding things. They've got the number one and number two basically now.
Yeah, but Boom cracked the code. They cracked the code. There's nothing else to say other than that. I mean, like they're doing it right. They really found a niche that like no one else has really I shouldn't say no one else. No other publisher really has tapped into the way they have. But
you have to have the right. You have to have the right base platform, not platform, but like IP or
Yeah, the
comp
right
based off to
content.
it. You can't just do it off of anything. The Expanse had a massive following prior to
But
this
yeah,
launch,
but who
and then
who who really knew? Who really knew that like the Expanse like had
they
that?
my guess is like as someone did, they wouldn't have licensed the ability to have Boom have the Expanse as a comic book in the first place.
Yeah,
But
but
yes, not that much of it. Yes, you're
yeah,
right.
but because even so, like even if they did like 500,000, people would
Yeah,
have been like, "This is a massive success for the Expanse." Hold on
yeah,
one second, my dog. I gotta pick up my dog.
you're fine.
um, but the fact that it did, like another like
What was it?
1.4 million, I
Yeah,
think, whatever it was, like it's insane. Um, but
you
going
do that
back
with
to
every one of your platform ones does that, right? 1.4.
yeah, that's how we roll.
Yeah, I love how it was a $25,000 goal too. I was just looking it up. It was a $25,000 goal, and they made $1.4 million on almost 1,200 and yeah, 1,200 backers. That's crazy.
Well, you got to throw something out there.
I
You
know.
got to put you got to put some sort of goal up there. Like you
Yeah,
can't say like $1 million
yeah,
and
but I was
people
just
be
thinking
like,
like
"What do you
that's.
mean?"
I feel like they knew we were gonna make it over. They should have just put 5,000 and made it look way more. But yes, back to what you
Same,
were
same,
saying.
same. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, so this is during the pandemic,
Yeah.
and you see, diamonds shut down, and retailers are shut down, and at the same time, DC or like Warner Brothers and DC slashed their publishing output by 25%. So all of this is adding up to like fewer and fewer opportunities, fewer revenue streams for creators, and then at the same time, you see e-commerce and crowdfunding just exploding, and it seemed like a no-brainer. Eric had talked about sort of being a consultant on people's Kickstarters,
Mhm.
and with my background, like I said, having started another tech company before, I was just like, you know what? Forget about tacking onto something else. What if we just did it ourselves? And that was really all of that coming together was the genesis of Zoop. And we have a third partner named Marvin Oswald. He's our CTO. He's based out of Germany, basically built a platform and is, the one making all the adjustments. And like anytime we get feedback from people being like, hey, this didn't work, or this, you guys should be doing this, like he's the one taking charge of all that. So it's really the three of us. We have a head of marketing as well, but like we're a very small, lean team, and doing everything we can to continue to grow and help creators fund their projects.
And so just so people know out there too is I wrote like I hate to say what makes it different, but what
Oh, sure.
stands out for Zoop as a platform over ones like Kickstarter or the others out there for you.
So feel free to stop me at any time because I could
Yeah.
spend like a whole half hour talking about this. On the user side of things, you'll notice that like we have a more e-commerce type interface as opposed to Kickstarter has their tiers. And
Mhm.
what I mean by that is, if you go to Kickstarter or even Indiegogo, it's like, all right, get the PDF. Excuse me. And then the next level is get the PDF and the physical.
Mhm.
Then the next level is get the PDF and the physical and a t-shirt and a pin. And it just keeps getting that list of things that you get that you are purchasing gets longer and longer and longer, little convoluted, little difficult to actually keep track of when you're like, I just want to try to get that sketch from that guy.
Yeah.
So our offering is more a la carte, where it's like Amazon Prime, where you're like, cool, I want one of those, I need a couple of those, throw those
Yeah.
into your cart and check out. So it allows you to buy multiples of things. The add-ons are part of the main campaign. As a user, you're going to put in your credit card information and your shipping address into the main campaign, so there's no need for surveys. There's no need to be like, a year and a half later, like, where's my book, dude?
Yeah.
And not realize that like you never filled out the survey, so that creator never even had your shipping address,
Yeah.
and you never paid for shipping. So we kind of streamline all of that. We make it easier, and the feedback from that has been wonderful. People are like, oh, this is much easier. I appreciate this, because I don't know if you've backed many Kickstarters, but like
Yes.
when the survey comes and you're like, I gotta pay, pardon my language, you're like, I gotta pay even more now for shipping. Like it's just
Yeah.
like a double, it kind of hurts. So by removing that, I think that we remove, some of that friction there. On the creator side of things, we sort of have two models. Our base model, I would call it, that's more apples to apples with Kickstarter. We basically offer the platform. We handle the credit card processing fees for you as well, and you can run your own campaign. But some of the differences are we're going to promote your campaign, as
Mhm.
opposed to it being on Kickstarter and you having to beat the algorithm just in order to get 72 hours maybe of like the project we love
Yeah.
badge or placement. We're going to feature all of our campaigns on the homepage. in our social media, in our email marketing, you're actually going to have a point of contact, someone to help support you on this, which I know isn't necessarily a thing that Kickstarter does.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hugely beneficial, because if it's your first time, potentially you may not know what you don't know. And if we're sitting here telling you like, hey, you really should like build up your email list before you launch this campaign, you may have never heard that before. You might not have known, to do something like that. And that could be the difference between raising the money that you need or not.
Yeah.
We are an all or nothing platform, but we're also flexible. We're not beholden to the old rules of crowdfunding. If a campaign needs to extend how long it's going to run for, or if we need to drop the goal, say from $5,000 to $3,500, because now that's going from what the creator wanted to raise versus what they need to raise in order to go into production. We have that flexibility, and the goal here is to help creators. So it doesn't make sense to us if someone's like, oh, I raised $3,700 on my $5,000 goal, but now I can't get any of it. It's like, well, let's figure this out. Let's get it so you can make your book. So there's all of that that we offer to anyone on the platform. Now, we also have another model, which is our sort of white glove full service model, where we handle campaign management. We do elevated marketing, which is press releases, booking on podcasts and YouTube shows like this, as well as we'll handle all of the printing and all of the fulfillment for the campaign, which we know are some of the biggest barriers to entry for people, not even bothering with crowdfunding, because these are creatives. They just want to write, they want to draw, they don't want to handle the administrative side, the technology side, the packaging hundreds of packages, or even finding the materials to do that and going to the post office. So we take that off their plate as sort of a turnkey solution, and as a pseudo publisher in that way as well. We use third-party vendors for printing and fulfillment, but it's the easiest way to put something out there. So
well, it's also clean. It's clean. So anybody like that, if you go to the website, it's very, I don't know what it is. I mean, that's obviously a look that the Kickstarter's used for years of what their campaigns look like. But there's something about Zoop that's just clean, crisp, looking at it. I mean, like, it's just, it's very simple to use. And that's, I think, is a huge thing for a lot of people out there who are trying to potentially support someone or back something. It's just, sometimes it's just, it gets so confusing and it's me. I've always been the one where it's like, I kind of want what's at, the seventh level of something, but don't care about what you get from 6 to 2. Like, it's like, I want the digital download, but I also want the whatever signed book plate thing at the end. But if I have to spend all this money on all this other shit that I'm not going to need or want, and then my shipping charges go way up because I'm getting the stuff that I don't need and all that stuff. So like, having the ability to just be like, okay, I'm on the Axe Builder one, just be like, okay, I want the digital copy, I want the hardcover, but I want it signed, so I'll get that one, and then I want the trading cards. Bam. And then you can just add those 3 things to your platform or to your cart and then check out.
You're paying for what you want. Yeah, you're paying for what you want and none of the other fluff.
Which is great. And you can make donations. It's a tip jar. I'm actually pretty impressed with the number of tips that Axe Wheeler got.
Look, I mean, not gonna lie, this is our number 1 campaign since we've launched. So, well-established name, a book that he'd been promoting well before we launched this book. I mean, he's an example of, he did everything right. I mean, he really did. But at the same time, he also had a name. It wasn't his first time out. He'd worked with Jonathan Hickman, done stuff at Marvel. Nominated for an Eisner before this. So, not everybody has the same path. But this book, very proud of this one. And right now, it's open because it took so long to sort of really like make the entire book that we're sort of doing like a final order cutoff before we go to print.
Which you had the option to do. There's no hard and fast rules. What did I just we were watching? Oh, my son's really into Frozen right now, and so Olaf does these things called Olaf Presents. I don't know if you've seen this thing on Disney Plus,
like the shorts.
Yes, and they're like these little shorts explaining other Disney movies, and the way that he explains it, the story in Frozen 2, he does like it. Honestly, it would be amazing for Marvel to do this with what's his face from Ant-Man. Explaining, my friend told me this and this and this, and do that.
Luis,
explaining, doing all of the Marvel movies in these little shorts. Like, it's just so funny because our Olaf is sarcastic in it. Like, he's like, not just he's telling the story, but he's telling the Aladdin one. He's like, oh, well, your dad can't change the rules that he was the one that made up in the first place.
Right.
I was laughing at him, like, oh my God, I love how funny that is. But like, it's true. Like, you're not going to do something that's going to negatively affect your consumers, your customers, or your creators. But like, if you needed to change something or do something to make it more, open it back up for final order cutoff, I wouldn't be pissed off as a backer from the original run that you opened it up to something, unless you were opened it up and said, I was only going to do 100 of these. Now we're doing 150, which you wouldn't do.
Right. Yeah, no, we haven't changed anything. There's no like limits that have changed.
Yes.
It's really just for people who maybe missed it last year and have heard all the buzz since then, and
Yeah.
for people to just get in before the print run is closed. So, yeah, and because we have that flexibility and we don't play by like the established rules on other platforms, we're able to do this, and we've already done like a few additional thousands of dollars for the campaign. So it was a good idea. And I expect it to do even more because we have more interviews being set up and more press and promotion behind it. So yeah, I just think that there's a lot more that can be done. Look, I understand why Kickstarter doesn't do it. I mean, they have one person that's essentially running, or not running, but like overseeing, 150, 200 live campaigns at a time. We have a little bit more of a curated slate. So it's easy for us to have our hands on all these campaigns and really try to, promote all of them.
Do you purposely only have 2 or 3 going at a time, or is this just what is available at the moment? It's like one of those things where like, okay, well, 2 or 3 going just to not overcrowd people.
We are not a self-serve platform yet, like Kickstarter. So we have our hands on every campaign. So we only have a limited bandwidth. Remember the small team I was telling you about earlier? We have a limited bandwidth of how many campaigns that we can actually have our hands on and run at any one time. But then that also, I think makes it a little bit more special. That it has a little bit of our seal of approval on some of these campaigns, and the fact is we're trying to help all of them get across the line. I mean, we're close to a 90% success rate on our campaigns versus I think over a Kickstarter, it's depending on if they're talking about the platform overall or just the comics category, it's anywhere from like 64 to 74% success rate. So I think that because, we work with the creators, we offer advice, we offer strategy, we promote to our user base. I think that all those things help in the success rate for all the campaigns.
And I'm guessing you guys curate this a little bit in the back end, meaning that like if I were to submit a comic book that's not anywhere near flushed out enough to actually start crowdfunding for it, you might respond back, it's just not the time for this.
We might be like, look, if all you have is a script and like 2 pages of pencils and inks, that's not enough to really entice, that's not enough for a campaign page. People need to have confidence that, oh, this book is going to happen whether it gets crowdfunded or not. I think that's like the big thing is like they want to see that the creators have the drive to get this book done no matter what. And if all you have is 2 pages, people need to see what it is that they're potentially buying. They need to get hooked in. So, you really have to offer a little bit more than that. Otherwise your page looks a little bit lean, let's say,
and your confidence might go down a little bit if there's not something on there for you to see.
I mean, look, it's a catch-22 because crowdfunding really is there for people to raise the funds to finish, to create their product. But at the same time, we live in a space right now where people who back crowdfunding campaigns are still like expecting that product almost instantly. If it takes longer than they expect, they start getting upset. But it's like, guys, this is the point of crowdfunding. Like you're basically pre-ordering something that is not complete yet, and we could give you our best guesses on how long it'll take, but creators have lives too. They have personal issues that they have to deal with. They have other work that, maybe they have to take. So sometimes things take longer, and that's for indie guys. That's for more established people as well. I mean, just life gets in the way. And if you're supporting it, just be patient with creators, please.
There's something nice to also have that like surprise, almost like a present. It's almost free if you think about it. Like the number of times I've paid for something and backed it, and then like a year later or 9 months later, it's finally come in, and I've been like, oh, I forgot to even back this thing. This is amazing, and I'm so happy about it. And like my bank account didn't go down that day. Like my bank account wasn't like, oh, you just ordered this thing 6 months ago, 9 months ago. The crowdfunding was completed, and it came out of my bank account, and so on and so forth. And that's just sometimes the cool thing is like, oh, I can't believe I've done that with like even with the new with Substack a couple of years ago now with the the premium subscription things where you pay $300. I did a couple of them to try them out and things like that. And it was like a year later before I even got anything. But when I got it, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's what I paid for. Like, this is, I understand. This is, now I see it. This is great.
Yeah.
It was like almost like it was free.
Did you do Three Worlds, Three Moons by any chance?
I did. I actually have the thing down the thing down there. Right there.
You get the hardcover or the soft cover? I can't see.
Hardcover.
Beautiful. That was us. That was us, by the way. We partnered with them. We partnered with them to do the printing and fulfillment on that. So I probably have your email address and credit card information.
Probably, yeah. Right on your desk, right? No.
Yeah.
No, I am a massive Michael Del Mundo fan. So Michael Del Mundo could not do anything wrong, in my opinion. So like, that's the reason why I did it originally, and this stuff. And I really felt like I wish I didn't live in Maine, because they are one of the coolest. Like, they had breakfast at like San Diego Comic-Con and shit like that.
New York Comic-Con, I think.
It's amazing that what they've been able to do is that group, and that's a world building thing that's amazing. But yeah.
You got that? Did you get like the signed prints and the card? And,
I got
some. And there's like a floppy comic too.
Yeah, there's a. I have the card here somewhere.
Like a membership card.
It's metal. It's like hard.
Yeah.
You could kill someone with this thing. And then there's like 2 prints on the walls up here somewhere. There's one above there. You can't see it, but which I love, because it's a picture of it looks like a dad with a kid. Right, and it's like reading a book, and I'm like, oh, and in space, it's like, okay, this looks like me or another planet. But yeah, there's a floppy thing. I have this floppy comic book too that has on it.
Yep.
On it, to the foundations on it too. But and then I'm a graphic designer too, so I love the logo on it. But yeah, everything came out great. It was they were very good at communicating too. That's the thing, and I'm guessing that's a big downside to a lot of people who crowdfund, who back projects and don't hear anything. Like, that's one of those things that, like, updating your people is the smallest thing you can do to help someone feel like they're not getting screwed over. And that's one of those things that there's been creators that I've backed, and a year later it's like, oh, by the way, sorry about that, I got busy. I'm like, I understand that you have thousands of dollars of people's money, and
it takes 5 minutes to be like sorry, had a flat tire, had to deal with that for
correct. This is not like this is different than if you said, hey, I haven't actually pulled the money from you yet, and you don't I don't owe you anything yet, because you're not you. But when you pay and you have your money, it's like, okay, you do have this money and you can spend it however you want, as long as hopefully you do back. And that's the other thing is there's no, that scary box at the end of a Kickstarter campaign that says there's no guarantee that you'll get anything.
Right.
It's a scary thing too, but yeah. It's the crowdfunding world.
Yeah. So far, we haven't had that issue. So we're pretty fortunate. If and when we ever have to face that, I mean, like the latest example I see is like that Tales from the Quarantine one. I don't know the creator. I don't know enough about that one, but it seems like, that one did very well, took a lot of people's money. And yeah, we haven't had an issue like that. So fingers crossed. And
I think we all, I don't know, most of us aren't backing things that we don't trust either the platform or something from it. It's a weird thing. It's like, I just backed Charles Soule's new book. And I'm like, I know I'm gonna get this thing. I'm not worried about that. It's like there's these things that you're not usually gonna back someone you don't even know or don't care about. So there is that aspect of it too. But yeah, hopefully some new creators get backed from places like Zoop or other crowdfunding platforms, because I love this. It feels so much more wholesome when you get something like this. I mean, like they said, this is, these are creators that are popular and famous creators, but saying like,
sure.
I would 100% see this coming from a DC Black Label or something like that.
Oh, like, yeah. No,
having it come out of their hands is pretty cool. Or like,
they really spared no expense. I mean, the debossing and like, the designer, Sasha Head, man, like that. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Awesome stuff.
And so are you doing that too as a thing? Or is this just one of those one-time things you wanted to help these people out? Are you going to help in the back end doing some fulfillments, even though if it wasn't a crowdfunded on Zoop?
We've had those conversations depending on the project. It sort of has to make like financial sense for everybody, so there has to be like enough meat on the bone for someone to like, for it to be worth our time. I know I don't mean for that to sound like insensitive, but at the same time, we don't want to take too much out of like the creator's tally either, to where it just like doesn't make sense for them to come to us for something like that. So when the right projects work like that, we're having those conversations too.
And so you have a bunch of stuff you've done you've funded a bunch of different projects on Zoop. I
Mhm.
see that you go to the website. Anybody who's listening, you go to zoop.gg. You can go to the funded and explore all the projects that have been funded before. I
Mhm.
have I didn't get it through Zoop, but I do have Snow White and the Zombie Apocalypse is number 0 because they did come
Oh,
out with
cool.
that. They actually released that too into comic book stores as well, I believe. That's where I got mine, and I might have been a different version of it, but I have that book. I haven't read it yet, but I have that book. I have a lot of stuff to read. um,
Nice.
but is there one? I mean, I don't want to like think that there's. I don't want to say which the worst one, but like, is there one that you're like pretty proud about on there, or are all your children? It's hard to pick one that's your favorite.
Well, the one that kind of like put us on the map was we did a campaign for John Paul Leone,
Okay.
an artist who passed away in 2021. And he had a creator-owned book called The Winter Men. I think it was like through Wildstorm, which was part of DC.
Yeah.
It was his only creator-owned stuff. I mean, he had worked on Static Shock. He was a big artist over there. He did what was it, like Marvel's man, now I'm blanking on it, but like the X universe, or like it was like with
I
Alex
don't
Ross
remember.
doing the covers. It was like this alternate universe. I can't remember now. Like now I feel silly, but
It's fine.
reg- regardless, I mean, prolific, amazing, like masterclass type artist. Um, and yeah, we did this campaign for the Wintermen in Artist Edition, which essentially only comes out through IDW. But
Yeah.
we worked with Scott Dunbier from IDW to put this book together. Tommy Lee Edwards and Bernard Chang, who were studio mates and best friends with John Paul, helped put this book together. And we did nearly $200,000 on this campaign, and all the proceeds went to John Paul's family to pay for his daughter's college education. So
That's awesome.
not only was it like a really feel good type of campaign
Mhm.
for us, it's a gorgeous book. We just submitted it for an Eisner, so happy to say that. And to be able to do something like that and like feel good about the business, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I mean, but that campaign, I mean, people contributed art like Joe Quesada, Walt Simonson, Bill Sienkiewicz, uh Kim Jung Ji,
Mhm.
who also recently passed
Yeah,
away.
exactly. Yeah.
And we have this video of Kim Jung Ji. It's on our YouTube page of him creating the pinup that he did for the book, and it's insane. I mean, Peach Momoko uh, did a pinup for the book as
Yeah, I
well.
saw
So I
that too.
mean,
Yeah.
this was like a oh my god type of moment for us, because at that point we were only a few months old.
Yep.
Um, but it made sense for them to come to us because we were that built-in turnkey solution. Nobody knew how to do it. Nobody wanted to like take the time to, like take on all that extra work. So we made a lot of sense. Nick's campaign, Axe Wielder John, incredibly proud of that one. Another one we did was Comics for Ukraine, which is
Yep.
still in production, but that one also I think like $175,000. Um, we donated $100,000 check to a charity called Operation USA, and all those proceeds go to helping people who are displaced by the war in the Ukraine. So, and that project, had people like Alex Ross, Art Adams, Dave Johnson, Mark Wade, Kurt Busiek. I mean,
Wow.
Matt Wagner's. The list goes on and on and on of like some of the creators that like we've had the privilege of sort of like working with, or at least contributed to the project that we worked on. I mean, so some of those are huge. But then like on the not as incredibly large side, we did a campaign with an up and coming superstar artist, in my opinion. His name is Matt Lesniewski. He did a campaign called Faceless in the Family, and I think we broke 40,000 on that one. And this is his first foray into crowdfunding. He'd done some stuff I think with Dark Horse most notably, but just a superstar talent. And to be able to do those kinds of numbers, was really like, I was just happy for him. um on a personal note, we did an art book with Dan Panosian, and like I said, like way earlier, a 90s kid and like into the
Yeah.
whole image thing. It's like, dude, yeah, like, you know we got to do a campaign with Dan Panosian. That dude's awesome, and he's a great guy. Like
He
it was
is. He
super,
was on the
super
podcast a
fun.
couple episodes ago, actually. He was on to talk about his books, Black Tape and Alice Ever After.
Yeah,
over
yeah.
at Boom and AWA. But yeah, Dan's amazing. He was fun to talk to.
Yeah.
Great, genuine dude.
Yes, super, super great guy. And I'm sure I'm leaving people out, but those like
Mm,
off the top of my
yeah.
head without like looking through. But I mean, like realistically, the majority of dude, Des Taylor, if you're not familiar with Des Taylor, he's like one of my favorite people ever. He might not even know that, but like he is a legit, just like awesome dude. I love his artwork. But as far as like creators go, that guy is top notch. And check out his book Scarlet Couture.
See, and so like I said, there's about what I would say was there 5 or 6 projects being funded right now. I think it looks like roughly around there. All different genres of things
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
It's not like it's like superhero this or horror this. There's a little bit of everything available, which is pretty cool. And I mean, I've noticed a number of names on here just because I'm actually pretty in tune too. Though, like Dylan Andrews is a friend of a friend of a friend, so he says a couple books on there, and
Yeah,
I've gotten
he just funded his second campaign with
yeah,
us.
Warhood was funded, and then
Yep.
there was another one, Engraved. But he's done
Yes.
that before. And then I've gotten emails from like marketing or PR people of other books that have been on Zoop as well, like Odds and Ends. I believe I got an email about that. And then something else too. So I've seen the marketing behind it too, which has obviously worked in that sense. Because part of it is that Zoop name to me is like one of those things where it's like I'm like, well, what is this thing? And then it says, oh, it's being funded on Zoop, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And that's when I click on it and go, oh, that's the thing. And again, as a designer and someone who loves things that are clean, crisp, and easy to use, and maybe go, okay, this they know what they're doing over there. And that's when I reached out to you and was like, we should talk. We should definitely
Thank
get
you,
you on
man.
here and talk about this because it's definitely, you know what you're doing over there. But so it says
Yeah,
that
and
future campaigns. I'm guessing those are ones that are like you were gonna do. We just haven't had the time to put them together to get them up there and launch, right?
the coming
Coming soon.
soon ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, coming soon. I mean, like so those just take a little bit of preparation.
Yeah.
I mean, like one of the good things about crowdfunding is the pre-launch page, because then that allows people to kind of like start signing up for notifications for those early bird specials for the to be the first to know about like limited rewards, and that gives you an indication of maybe how well a campaign's going to do. So
Mm-hmm.
for anyone out there like thinking about running a campaign, a lot of your work is going to be done before the campaign launches. You really want to build up that groundswell of support so that day one hits. And even though we don't have an algorithm to beat, people still like seeing a winner. Like psychologically, other people out there want to see that, like, oh, this campaign is going to make it. They had a strong first day. Like, you could tell that this is going to be like a winning campaign. So yeah, I mean, a lot of work. Again, a lot of that marketing and promotion happens before the campaign. So right now, I mean, we're working with Jason Copland on Full Tilt. This is someone who's been working on this book for years and talking about it online. So people are really interested, in this book. Thunder Hunters by Mark Nelson. Mark's done like a ton of work for DC and Dark Horse, like back in the day. And this is a gorgeous looking book. Like, I'm so thrilled about this one. We have a book, pardon my language here, but called Murder
Mm-hmm.
Fucker, which I think is going to be super fun for people to check out.
Are
But
those some
yeah,
of the commissions examples of the Nightmare on Elm Street? Those are pretty crazy artwork too.
yeah, I mean, like it's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, and
Mm.
we have this other one, Stardust, the Super Wizard. This is going to be an anthology. Van Jensen is sort of spearheading this. We haven't announced everyone who's involved yet, but some of the people that have been announced. Mike Allred is contributing. I think Cecil Castellucci is one of the other ones
Mm-hmm.
that's been announced. But we have a real murderer's row of comic creators who all love this basically public domain figure from the 30s that is,
Yeah.
they all kind of like dove into that world, and now they each get a chance at like taking a stab at it. And I should also point out some of the ones that we have live right now. We're working with
Yes.
the legendary Trina Robbins
Yeah.
on an anthology to benefit Planned Parenthood. It's called Won't Back Down. She's in her late 80s and she's still
Yeah.
fighting the good fight.
It's just funny
Um,
because I was going through and I was just scrolling through and it's like I was like looking more information, whatever, and I got to the point where it's like bio and it's her signature. I look over to the left, I'm like, oh, for some reason I thought she was like in her 20s, but like that doesn't make any sense. But yes,
yeah,
she's
she's
in her
been at it for a
80s.
long
Yes,
time. Yeah.
yes,
Imposter Syndicate by Matt D. Wilson, who's one of
yeah.
the co-hosts of the War Rocket Ajax podcast, if you're familiar with that. Um, cartoon puppet horror theater, which I think is a great project and definitely needs a little bit of love. This is from American Mythology Publishers. I think it's fun. Like, so if anybody saw, what was that, like the Happy Time Murders or the Happy
Yeah.
Time Mysteries or whatever, very much in that vein. If you're a Puppets fan, Snaggle Rock, Fraggle Rock. I don't know why I'm
Fraggle
saying
Rock.
Snaggle
Yeah,
Rock. Yeah,
Snaggle Rock,
Fraggle
yeah.
Rock. Things like that. Jim Henson. Go check this out. There's a lot of freebies. Excuse me. Anyone who backs it at a physical level is going to get another comic signed for free. So you're definitely going to be getting your money's worth with that campaign, as well as the other Happy Place by Jesse Sharon. This campaign is like, if it's not at 20,000 yet, it's like right. I think it's like right around there, or 18.6.
Yeah.
And which is incredible. She is, yeah, an incredible artist. And then Axe Wielder John, and we have Plus Waco Comics. This is the launch of their line, and we're doing everything we can to help them get across the line as well. So go support indie comics over there. But like, super proud of the lineup that we have right now, and we have a really busy April, May, June coming up. There's stuff that isn't listed on here. But yeah, I mean, yeah. And all the way at the end there, some stuff by Luciano Vecchio, Sanford Green. We have a project coming with it, but some of these things just take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
To eventually go live.
But is maybe in the goal in the future to make it so someone can do all this on their own, or is it still going to be that curated, like it makes sense for someone at Zoop to do the setting it up, and like part of the benefit of Zoop is that part of it.
Eventually this is going to be sort of that open source platform, but again, with a small team, it just takes some time and resources to get there, and we're a bootstrap company, so we don't have the resources of a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo, and there's pluses and minuses to all of that. The pluses is you still have human help and support, for the advice and the strategy.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's also human help and support as opposed to automated technology.
Yeah.
So you take the good and the bad, but like, as of right now, I mean, I couldn't be happier with the way that things are going. So, once we get to that automated version of Zoop, then I think the doors like really open, and then we start getting more quantity on the platform.
Which is funny, is right now the projects are amazing, and there's nothing that looks like there's nothing on there where I'm like, I don't know what the heck they're thinking, but like, we should stop that. But like, I just, like I said, the whole thing about it, the name, the cleanness, the ease. I think the ease is the biggest thing. People, if anybody's like thinking about crowdfunding, back something like Kickstarter, the idea of being able to pick what book you want, or pick the product, the things you want, check out, put your thing in, and just wait for contact back saying this product's going further, and like that idea of Kickstarter and like surveys and adding things on and getting your shipping address and all that stuff is a pain to do. And obviously there is some, I mean, do you guys send an email out verifying later on that your shipping address hasn't changed, or is that really on the onus of the backer?
For the campaigns that we're handling fulfillment, we'll do that.
Okay.
But for the campaigns where the creator is running their own campaign, we don't necessarily have as much control over that. But they should be just making sure, hey, everybody getting ready to fulfill, let me know.
But I also feel like there's this babysitting thing in the world that I just don't understand either. It's like, you did something and you moved. It's really kind of also up to you. It's not up to the person you bought something from to make sure that it's there. I mean, but
yes, you know, but I understand, because like when you're moving, like the last thing that you're thinking about is like, oh, I got it. Like, you're thinking about changing your address maybe with the post office, but not necessarily like the book that you bought 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So I get that
point there, but I just still think there's still a responsibility that if someone, if I were to buy something now and think about it, I don't know. It's a mixture of both, but having you guys as a company, if you're doing the more of the white glove service and you're going to actually contact people, it's just a nice reassurance to people. Be like, oh yeah, that is my address. Looks good. So on and so forth. Look, but I did that with, I bought a TV on Best Buy, and they sent me that email, and the address was wrong. But the only way for me, wrong. I live in a townhouse that has other places
multiple
in it.
units.
And my unit was like listed as a different unit, but it was my address. So my address is number 30, but I'm unit 9, and then my next door neighbor is unit 10, but it was like 30 unit 1. And I was like, if you press change, it says, okay, we're going to cancel your order, reorder it with the new address. I'm like, no. I want this delivery today. And so I just said, screw it, and let's see if it comes. And the person ended up like way down at the other end of my thing, and I'm like yelling to them over. But I was like, So I
Yeah, no, it
appreciate the
happens.
checking
It
in on
happens.
addresses and things like that,
Yeah.
but like it's one of those weird things that I guess with the platform like Zoop or Kickstarter or things like that, these products sometimes take a year to make or 9 months to make, so a lot can change in a year. So that makes sense
That
to
is true.
check in on someone's address. But the no post survey post campaign surveys is also amazing. So the checkout platform on Zoop is amazing.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, like realistically, if you're like, hey, I don't want to go through the hassle of, signing up for something else, like if you have auto populate on your desktop, it takes literally no time. And even
Mm-hmm.
if you don't, it is a quick like 30 seconds to punch in your information on your laptop or your phone. Um, you know, and it's a one-time thing. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not something that you have to do multiple times. It's really quick and easy. The creators that we're championing definitely appreciate your support, so come give it a shout.
Yeah, and so you can find We Are Zoop on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and like you said, if
Yep.
there isn't a TikTok, there will be one. There should be one, and then Zoop.gg is the website to go there and find all kinds of cool products that are being backed, and look for more obviously in the future. And as Zoop grows, there's things, but obviously just follow social media because that's where you're gonna put everything. So
Yeah.
you'll learn about it if you follow them on social media. Well, maybe if you don't have the blue check mark, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to pay for that on Twitter, but we won't get
Not
into
happen. Not happening. Yeah.
that. But yeah, and then Jordan, you have a Instagram as well. If anybody, or not Instagram, I was gonna say Instagram, but I usually just like to say Twitter. If you have a Twitter, it's just red.
Yeah.
Is it just your name?
Yeah, I'm more prolific on Twitter. I'm
Yeah.
at Jordan Plosky. It's going to be a lot of wrestling takes on there. You know.
Big news today, huh?
Oh, geez, man. You know what's really funny is I feel like the whole WWE being bought by Endeavor is almost overshadowed by the fact that Roman won. So
Yes. Well, it was just funny. I also love it. I think IGN posted and something like that. It's like, oh, WWE merges with the UFC. I'm like, that's not the right words to use. They're merging
it's
into the same company, but it's not like Roman Reigns is gonna fight for a UFC title.
yeah, yeah. I'm waiting to see how it shakes out because like I saw the number 21 billion
Yeah.
being thrown around and I'm like, I don't think they paid 21 billion for
No.
WWE, but that headline makes it look like it
Did you
was.
see the what their stock ticker is gonna be? TKO.
No.
When they publicly traded, they're gonna be called TKO, and I'm like, that is amazing. I want just a
That's not
share of that
taken. I can't
stock.
believe that's not taken yet.
I just want to share that stock because of that. I don't care what it's for. I just want
Wow.
TKO. It's so cool. But no, I could see a lot more UFC characters coming over and doing something in the WWE
Oh,
if they're under the same umbrella. And very rarely are you actually going to see someone in the WWE going to be like, oh, I'm going to fight for a title in the UFC. It's not merging. They're one
yeah, yeah.
umbrella doing something. It's not like when Marvel bought or Disney bought Marvel that all of a sudden you saw like Frozen in a Marvel movie. It's just
Right. Oh,
they make jokes.
Disney bought Marvel. Yeah. You're
Yeah,
like DC bought Marvel.
no,
Disney, yeah.
Disney. Sorry, Disney bought
Yeah.
Marvel, and you're not going to see like Toy Story end up in Buzz and Woody fighting to save New York. It's similar to
Of
that sense.
course.
It's a
Yeah, yeah.
subsidiary of the same company. But yeah, I was laughing. With UFC mergers with WWE, all these fans are commenting like that's going to ruin the WWE or ruin the UFC, and I'm just like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about.
It'll be interesting. I'm more of an
Yeah.
AEW guy myself,
So,
but so that's good for them over there. But I'm gonna keep watching AEW. I was just at Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor on Friday night. That was an awesome show. So yeah.
See, crazy.
And
it's so funny if people don't understand is that people outside of the comic book world, how much comic books and the pro wrestling intertwine.
Totally.
One of the best comic books over the past couple of years is Do a Power Bomb. So I'll say that right there.
100%, man. Danny Warren Johnson's a beast. But like, I think it also goes back. And then I really don't want to like I could talk for another hour. Unfortunately, yeah. I'm gonna have to wrap up in
Me
a moment.
too. Yeah.
But it goes back to like 91. Like the death of Superman and all this stuff happening at that time, at the same time where it was Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan, and then like Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter. Like, so you see, like you're seeing like these real life superheroes that you're reading the comics, and then like you see these larger than life, colorful characters, and you're like, he's good, he's bad, and yes, there's a direct correlation between comics and wrestling, and maybe that's for another time, Justin.
Well, that's why we see cons. Cons have like comic book guests there, but also I know where you see someone there who was a pro wrestler. Like, why does that make any sense? And it's because they have a lot of same fandom. It's crazy. It's totally insane. But yeah, so We Are Zoop is the handle on all social media, and Zoop.gg is the website. Please back some of those things on there. They're amazing. And thank you so much for coming on, Jordan, and appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your day. Work hard.
Hey, same to you, Justin. Thanks, man.